Hey guys, it's Marisol with Soul Stitchery. Today is part one of our Christmas tree table runner. So we're gonna make a quick Christmas tree table runner together. I have a couple of samples here for you to see. So I'm working on this one, getting ready to finish it up. I still have some borders to put on the ends, as you can see. I just finished this one, and this one just came off the long arm. I'm getting ready to bind it. You can see it's really cute. Just very simple Christmas trees, right side up, upside down. Super, super easy to put together. They go together really quick. Takes about 4 hours total. So to start, you're gonna need either a jelly roll, and with a jelly roll, you could probably make about 3 of them, just as I have, or just any fabric of your choice cut into 2.5-inch strips. And you will need 12 2.5-inch strips to complete one table runner. You can use the scraps from the 2.5-inch strips if you're using a jelly roll and you've got 2.5-inch strips that are with the fabric. You can use the scraps, and there are plenty. There's lots and lots of them. You can use these to make the outside border. So it does have a border on the outside. And I will attach the pattern in our files tab on the Crafty Crew group page. But it does have a small border. So I made my border 3 inches finished, but you can use the 2.5-inch strips. I think that's what the pattern calls for, is another 2.5-inch strip border. I wanted it to be a little bit wider. So my finished table runner is, let's see, without shaking the camera too much. My finished table runner is 13 inches wide. So it's a little bit wider than what the pattern calls for, but you can certainly follow the pattern exactly. It's another 2.5-inch strip. All of these little pieces that are left over from cutting would make a great little piecey border, but I'm actually going to use the scraps to bind them. So that's entirely up to you how you decide to use those scraps, but just FYI, there are no quilting police, so you can do whatever you like and whatever looks pretty to you. So, as I said, we need 12 to get started. So I'm going to pick 12 out of the jelly roll strips that I have. I'm going to quick turn the camera angle so that you can see as I sort through them and how I pick them. It's important that you pick whatever you like, but because the pattern does have upside down Christmas trees and right side up Christmas trees, you can make the right side up ones a particular fabric if you choose to highlight those. So let's pick some fabric. I'm going to switch you around really quick and I'll be right back. Okay guys, I'm back and I've picked my 12 jelly roll strips to make my Christmas tree table runner with. One of the things that you should know is that when you are making your Christmas tree table runner, 6 of these strips will be for your right side facing Christmas trees, and 6 of the strips will make the remainder of the upside down Christmas trees. The only difference between these two guys is that this has a seam in the middle. So this block will be seamless in the middle, and then these 2 pieces will be 1/2 of a Christmas tree until you sew them together. And look how pretty that looks once it's all together. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut our jelly roll strips, and you can see here I've picked these 6 are going to be my top my solid Christmas trees without the seam in them, and then these 6 are going to be my upside down Christmas trees that are going to have a seam going through the middle. And so I'm going to set the upside down ones aside. We'll cut those afterwards. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to cut our right side up facing Christmas trees with one of my favorite rulers, my Creative Grids ruler. So that top row, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to cut one 2.5-inch by 10.5-inch rectangle. So what I'd like to do is grab my little trusty Creative Grids ruler. I am going to measure 10.5 inches to just this side of the selvage. So a couple things you should know. I always wondered when you're using pre-cuts and they have a pinking edge, where do I put my line to make sure that I'm cutting a straight line? I always follow the top point of the pinking. So what'll happen is I line up my ruler here at the bottom by the top point of the pinking, and the pinking is just the zigzag cut. Pinking shears are used to cut pre-cuts like this so that they don't shred or fray too much in packaging and shipping, I guess. And it does work. It works really well. So you can see there's no fraying on this, and I've handled these jelly roll strips quite a bit. So we're going to cut one 10.5-inch rectangle from each of these strips. So I will stack a couple up like this. And I feel pretty good about doing 3 at a time. If you're a novice quilter, I highly recommend that you do 1 at a time for accuracy's sake. What happens when you stack fabric is that it can slip and slide. Your ruler can slip and slide unless you're using a Creative Grids ruler, which I do swear by. These are my favorites because the back has a little rough area that helps the ruler to stay grippy on the fabric. You can see it doesn't really slide too much. And there is a trick to cutting, right? So if you're a novice quilter, remember that if you are using your ruler to measure, make sure that you use the ruler the entire project. If you're going to measure on your mat, use the mat the entire project. And the reason that's important is because, believe it or not, measuring devices are not all created equal. So an inch on your mat may not equal exactly an inch on your ruler. And if you shuffle back and forth between mat and ruler to measure, you might struggle a little bit with accuracy. So I'm going to use my ruler. Use the ruler the whole time. And my first cut is going to be a 10.5 by 2.5-inch rectangle. Just grab my rotary cutter here and give it a swipe. And then, because I have my selvage on the other end of this, I'm just going to flip it around. And I'm going to measure again, 10.5 inches, right to that cut that I made. Make sure that my ruler is lined up along the bottom. Make sure I have a nice straight line along that cut edge. And then I'm just going to swipe off those selvages and toss them aside. So this is the first cut of our right side up Christmas trees. So the next cut, and I'm going to just cut all the different sizes out of these first 3 strips, and then I'll cut the rest and you guys can just follow along. So I'm going to make sure that these are lined up and that they all match. I'm a bit of a stickler like that. And it's important, make sure that you're all lined up before you cut so that you don't have accuracy issues. So the next cut that we're going to make for the right side up Christmas trees is an 8.5-inch rectangle. So we're going to do the same thing. Line up the bottom of my ruler along the pinking edge. Make sure this measurement, the 8.5 measurement, is lined up along that straight line. I've even got my trusty reading glasses on so I can see my measurements really well. I'm going to make sure that that's lined up nicely. And then we're just going to swipe a cut right here, nice and carefully. Okay, now we have segment number 2 of those right side up Christmas trees. And you can see if I put these together, they're just a little bit shorter. This is how they're going to stack up, right? So they're going to go from largest to smallest this way. So these 2 are all set. The next cut we're going to make is a 6.5-inch rectangle by 2.5-inch strip. So I'm going to smooth these over. Now there is the fold from the width of fabric. So that's that fold right there. Most of the time I will press that. I'm just going to, my iron is right over here to the left. I'm going to give it a quick press because that has a little to do with accuracy as well. If you've got that fold in there, it's going to, it might wrinkle underneath the ruler. It may not lie flat as you're running your ruler across the fabric. So kind of important to press when you can, especially those fold seams if you're going to cut on that, because you don't want to cut something 1/8 of an inch longer than it should be because of the fold. So I've pressed that nice and flat now. So we're gonna now cut a 6.5 inch strip from the jelly roll strips here. Again, I'm gonna use my ruler to measure because I'm using my ruler the whole project. So there's 6.5 there. I'm right along that bottom line. Everything is lined up. Gonna give it another quick swipe. And now we have our 6.5s. And then the very last cut that we're making from this for the right side up Christmas trees is a 4.5 inch rectangle. So let's cut those. Again, using the same ruler. Line that right up. Make sure everything is nice and squared. And then swipe that cut. And here's those 4.5 inch rectangles. So those are all the cuts that we have to make for the right side up Christmas trees. I'm going to cut through the rest of these and then we'll move on to the upside down Christmas trees. So follow along. Okay, so this is all of the right side up Christmas trees done. And we are all set on the right side up, guys. So we're gonna move on to our upside down, guys. So the upside down pieces, we have to cut 2 of each of them. So I'm just gonna straighten these guys out here. And since we're cutting 2 of each, I'm not gonna open up the jelly roll. I'm just going to turn it this way on the selvage. This will be 4 layers. Again, if you're a brand new quilter, what I did when I was brand new was I cut single pieces at a time, just because the fabric can wiggle, the ruler can slip, and you don't want to make any mistakes. But remember that on the upside down Christmas trees in this pattern, we're going to cut 2 of each. So the first size cut that we're making is a 5.5 inch rectangle. So the selvage, I can see the little pinholes in the selvage here, so I know that that's kind of where my selvage edge, I'm going to be safe cutting this far away from the edge there. So I'm going to give it a quick swipe. And then I'm going to turn these around so I can swipe off those selvages. I'm going to measure with my ruler again. And remember that if you're using your ruler to measure, you're going to use your ruler the entire time. If you're using your mat to measure, you're going to use your mat the entire time. Take it from me when I tell you that an inch here and an inch here and an inch on some other ruler is not the same. So we're going to swipe off these selvages. And that's our first cut for the upside down trees. And there will be 2 of each of these. They're stacked up this way. So there's 2 of each of those. And then the next cut is 4.5. So same thing, line her up, give it a good swipe. Don't forget to close your rotary cutter like I always do. I always forget. So there's 5.5, 4.5. Can anybody guess what's coming next? Yep, 3.5. So we're gonna do a 3.5 inch rectangle. And again, don't forget, line up your the bottom of your ruler on the points of that pinking, and then I'm just going to swipe a cut right here, and there's our 3.5s. And then the last little square for the upside down trees is actually a 2.5 inch square. Since my strips are 2.5 inches wide, I'm going to make it 2.5 inches this way. I'm going to have a perfect square. So I'm going to swipe that. And so these are the cuts that you're going to do for your upside down Christmas trees. So I've done those 2. I'm going to cut the rest of them. Stay tuned, and we're going to get to the sewing part, okay? Okay guys, video turned out a little longer than expected, so I'm going to cut these up, and I'll meet you at part 2 of the Christmas tree table runner tutorial video. Hope you're having fun so far. If you have any questions about anything in the video, please post it in the comments or send me a message. I'll be happy to answer. Have fun!